Hi, my name is Kat Roettger and I'm currently a principal scientist at CPI. In my current role, I work in digital technologies and data science at one of the UK's Catapult network. The Catapult network here in the UK is set up to innovate for industrial applications and to translate academic research for industry. In my role, that is exactly what I do. I support companies to use data science for material development and, for example, for process optimization to run a manufacturing process more efficiently. And mostly that's done using data that our customers already have, but they don't use that data to the full potential. So that's what I do in my current role. And how do I spend my time every day? I spend about a third of my time, I would say, technically leading projects that we do with our customers and our partners. I spend about a third of my time finding funding opportunities, applying for funding from, for example, Innovate UK or Horizon Europe. And the rest of the time, spending networking, I'm talking to colleagues, I'm mentoring team members, spending my time innovating, and I'm also doing a course at the moment, which I will come back to in a moment later. I grew up in Germany, and after finishing the equivalent of A-levels in Germany, I decided to study chemistry. The prime reason for that was because my chemistry teacher at the time told me that I shouldn't do it. He said I wasn't good enough to study chemistry. So I don't quite know why I took that decision, but it just felt right. And I didn't want to be told by anyone that I wasn't good enough, so I thought I'd just go for it. And I'm not the type of person who would plan their career, and I never really regretted that decision. So that's why I studied chemistry, and I absolutely loved it. And I love being in chemistry labs doing synthetic chemistry, just making stuff essentially. But from the start, I gravitated towards the more data focused parts of chemistry. So I ended up doing a PhD in physical chemistry. I never thought I would do a PhD when I started studying chemistry. I never thought I would work with data, and I never thought I would be doing anything like physical chemistry. But I did, and I quite liked it. And I also never imagined myself working with data or doing coding. But again, it just felt right at the time, and I'm glad I chose to follow my instincts there. The field I was working on is ultrafast spectroscopy on DNA building blocks. What that meant in reality is I spent most of my time building the instrument that I needed, and then later analyzing the data that I generated. I used things like Mathematica and MATLAB to do that. If I would do my PhD again now, it's quite a while ago, I would probably use Python instead. It was challenging sometimes, particularly because I didn't learn a lot of the techniques around data analysis, around coding during my studies, but I kept asking my network for help, and I made extensive use of online resources, for example. And then it's probably the proudest moment of my career is that I finished my PhD. I finished it with the highest grade possible, and I won 2 awards for my work in my PhD as well. And why was I quite proud of that? Not so much because of the awards, but because I just thought that it was highly unlikely at the start when I started chemistry that I would end up doing a PhD and being quite good at it. So I'm glad I took opportunities that came my way, and I tried to make the most of them. And that is why I was quite proud of achieving all of that. And I don't know if my old chemistry teacher ever heard about it, but I'm glad I didn't follow his advice, and I followed my instinct instead. And then after finishing my PhD, I wanted to move abroad for a while, and I applied for a fellowship to move to the University of Bristol. And it was a really beautiful experience. I joined a wonderful research group at the university. I learned a lot about science, and I also felt really welcome to the UK. And when I came to the UK, I never planned to stay here, but very shortly after arriving in Bristol, I met my now wife, and I've never regretted staying here. I've been in the UK for about 10 years now. And then after my postdoc ended, I decided to leave academia, not because I didn't like it, but I wanted to experience something else. But I also wanted to keep the freedom to explore and to learn, so I decided to apply for a role at CPI, at my current company. Because we are part of the Catapult network and we are between industry and academia, it felt right and it gave me the opportunity to keep exploring, to keep learning, to keep innovating. And I started in my role at CPI by building a digitized pilot plant for liquid mixing, which we did in an academic collaboration, and I moved from Bristol to Birmingham. It was a completely different area to what I did in my PhD and my postdoc, and I had to learn again about digitizing manufacturing processes. It wasn't always easy, but again, I tried to make the most of my network, build a new network, get help, advice, learn from colleagues, from academics, from suppliers, from customers, and it was a fascinating time. And then in the following years at CPI, I've been at CPI for about 8 years now, I changed my role gradually from a more sort of lab and plant-based role to being very focused on doing the data science. And that transition was not always smooth because I'm not a data scientist, or I wasn't at the time. And I started leading data science projects which involved a lot of machine learning and deep learning. But that's not something that I've been working on myself particularly because it just wasn't the thing when I did my PhD and my postdoc. And I wanted to learn more about it, because leading projects on topics which you're not as familiar with as you would like to, it's not always the easiest experience, and not always the most efficient experience either. So I tried to upskill my way, but because I had a very busy working life, it was quite difficult to do it in a structured way, and I didn't really have time to work on the data science myself, because I was leading the projects, I was looking for funding and so on. So I didn't learn as fast or structured as I would like to have done. And I didn't really feel confident that I could be a credible leader in data science. So I decided to solve the issue. And last year, with the support of my line manager, he was really good in supporting it, I applied for an apprenticeship in data science and AI, which I am doing at the moment. And I really enjoy it because it's helping me to close gaps in my knowledge and my skills in a very, very efficient way. And I don't think I could have done it so fast without the course. So that's really something that I could recommend. Would I have done anything different in my career? I think if I would do my PhD again, I would use machine learning for my data analysis, but at the time it wasn't very popular. And we used sort of statistics and traditional ways of analyzing the data instead. And also, with hindsight now, I should have done the data science course, which I'm doing now a few years ago. But that's just what it is. I'm glad I'm doing it now, and it's never too late to do it. Do you have any advice? I would say the best thing to do is to follow your own interests. I would say don't do something just because someone else wants you to do it, or not do something because somebody else says you're not good enough. Just try it, and try and mold your own roles in your career around your own strength and your own wishes for your future. Also, I would say if you're interested in data science, but you also have an interest in something else, whether that's engineering or science or psychology or whatever it is, it's never too late to learn data science and statistics. And there's loads of resources and courses out there which can help you upskill in that area. And then there was one thing which was and is really important for me. I found it incredibly useful to have a really strong network and to find role models I can relate to. I'm not a naturally extrovert person, so it's not easy for me to build a network, but I found it very, very rewarding. And I also found that whenever I asked people in my network for advice, I don't think anyone was ever not happy to support me and give advice. So the last thing I would say is never stop asking questions, whether that's about data science or about something else. It's fascinating, and it's sometimes really upsetting if I talk to women with a long career in either industry or academia about their experiences. It's fascinating what they can tell you about how working world has changed, about their experience, and I never fail to learn something from the women in my network whenever I have conversations like that. So in summary, I would say do whatever you want, build a strong network, and never stop learning. Thank you.